book. It's wonderful. It's a many splendid thing. It's a listicle. It's a celebration of the power of storytelling. It's also an account of a life lived in Bollywood trenches. It's written by Anupama Chopra. We all know her. We love her. We wait for her review. She's a national award winning author, journalist, and film critic. She writes in this book about 50 films, artists, and events that have left an indelible impression on her and have shaped her 25-year career. I love the book. It took me really down memory lane, and also lots and lots of new movies that I added to my watch list. And I thought I actually was a very person who was really onto it and knew what was going on, but there were so many movies. Some of my favorites, I'm glad she mentioned Lunchbox, Monsoon Wedding, Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, Rangila Monsoon, but so many which I'd never heard of. She's not only covered Hindi cinema but also Indian cinema. Her top 51 list, many movies that I added, and I'm sure you will too once you read. I added Super Deluxe, The Superman of Malegaon, and Daira. I'm so excited to speak to her about this amazing collection and that she has penned, and it is really going to take a place in your heart too. So, Anupma, a very, very warm welcome. We're so excited to talk to you about this. I'm feeling nostalgic.
So, Kriti, thank you first of all for that lovely introduction. And I'm so thrilled that both you and Upasana enjoyed the book, because these are literally like the first reviews. So now a reviewer is getting reviewed, and this is the first sort of feedback that I'm getting. And it's just so nice that it is connecting. And honestly, I meant it to be a sort of fairly easy read that I hoped would in some way add value to people's lives, maybe point them in the direction, like you said, help them to discover some titles. And I'm so glad that you have, and you've added things to your watch list.
No, it was really fun, and it's a very, very easy read. What I love about it is you can just open a page anywhere and kind of
Correct.
also start there.
हाँ, ज़्यादा टेंशन लेने की जरूरत नहीं है.
And if you're looking for something good to watch, just open a random page.
Yes,
It's
yes.
kind of like Netflix tonight. Let me put this one.
Correct.
But you've
Correct.
reviewed so many films, I think thousands. So, what makes a good film? Is there a formula? And of course, I have to ask you, what makes a good review? Because you have definitely, taken our hearts by storm with your reviews.
Thank you. I don't think there's a formula to good filmmaking. There cannot be, because then everybody would do it, right? It would be like Coca-Cola or Pepsi, where you can just recreate exactly the same thing again and again. I think the foundation, honestly, is a brilliant script. I don't think that even the best directors and actors can create magic out of a substandard script. You could, perhaps sort of, you can take a great script and maybe not, if the director isn't great, then maybe the film is just good, but it won't be bad. Because वो जो घर की foundation होती है,
Yeah.
it's in place. So for me, honestly, and this is a personal thing because I've grown up mostly on Hindi cinema. Hindi cinema is mostly very linear, narrative, character, dialogue heavy. So my first responses are always to characters and story. Everything else, which is, the cinema of it, the shots, the craft, is always kind of a little after that. Obviously, all of it helps to build the story, and all of it, kind of supports the story. But I think what makes a good film is a film that delivers on the promise that it makes, right? So if I'm walking into, let's say, Suryavanshi, right? I cannot take fault with Suryavanshi for being broad stroked. It is a film designed to appeal to the largest number of people. It is a film designed as a broad stroke movie, right? So I cannot say, in fact, Rohit Shetty himself had told me this, कि आप Chinese restaurant में जाके ये नहीं बोल सकते कि इडली क्यों नहीं है ना? So वो नहीं हो सकता. But it's designed to be an entertainer. Does it entertain? So the critique can be, okay, I was not entertained, or was I entertained? Did it grip me? Did the story land those punches? But it cannot be that, but I wanted stillness. I wanted complexity, which that film never promised. So I think a good film is a film that makes a promise and delivers on that promise. And a good review, honestly, is a review that comes from a place of knowledge, so that it's informed, so that I'm not just saying, this is a good film, this is boring. That's not a critique. That's not a review. You have to be able to, like a good lawyer, you have to say, this is my position, and here's why this is my position. So that even if you and I don't agree, even if you love the film and I didn't, I still enable you in some way to see my point of view. That, okay, this is another, because a film is a very subjective art form. Everybody responds in different ways, and the same person responds differently depending on where they are in their own life. So a good review should come from a place of knowledge. It should make a very solid case for the response, ki, yeah, this was good, this was not so good. And I think if you write well, it's wonderful. So the greatest critics, the critics I love to read, Anthony Lane or Tony Scott at the New York Times, or Manola Dargis, they might be talking about films that I will never see, but I read them because the writing is so good.
Now we know your secret too. So it's all about the script. And I know Upasna is a big fan. She has lots of questions also. Go ahead,
Please.
Upasna.
Thanks, Sukirti. Anupama, I love the book. I
Thank
really
you.
loved it. And I also, like Sukirti, made a must-watch list. And there's a quote that I love using when someone asks me that says, picking 5 favorite books is like picking the 5 body parts you'd not like to lose. So how did you narrow down the films? Like, how long did it take you to put into the book?
It's very tough, Upasna. Genuinely, इसमें है 50 to 50 और भी हैं. So this book could have like many sequels, because this is not like my canon that beyond this I don't like the films I'm watching, or it was the things I didn't want to do was sort of repeat. So I've also written a film called 100 Films to See, a book called 100 Films to See Before You Die. And I didn't want to repeat many of those titles because I've already written about them. Somebody said to me, but you go on and on about how much you love watching Shah Rukh on screen. Why isn't he in this book? And I was like, but I've written a whole book on him. So what more can I add? So the process.
But you have mentioned him so many times, and the picture.
So many times.
Well, you can't write a book without Shah Rukh.
Exactly. And so many of the films are his films, right? But these are movies that I have really enjoyed. These are movies that have spoken to me. But like I said, it is not the definitive or my top 50 or anything like that. I'm hopeful that somebody commissions A Place in My Heart Part 2 and we'll get 50 more.
I so agree. Penguin, are you hearing us? Yeah. Is there an English movie that you've seen, Anupama, that you would like to see remade?
Oh, wow. It's a tough one to remake. It's a tough one. But, as moms, I should tell you guys, I have 2 kids myself, right? And it was the first film I saw this year. It's a movie called The Lost Daughter, and it's on Netflix.
Yes.
And it's about this professor who comes to Italy. Is it Italy or is it Greece? It's in Europe. It's either Italy or Greece. And she's on a vacation alone. And there's a little girl on the beach who gets lost. But then she finds her and she gets kind of entangled with the narrative of this other family that's also there. And this film went into very, very dark places of being a parent, of being a mother specifically. And, I was just thinking, these are things that we in our cinema, even we as women, probably never acknowledge. Just the sort of the guilt, the frustration of having your life taken over by children. The amount of work you have to put in. These are not things we're comfortable talking about. For us, mere paas maa hai. Ma is that. And I don't know. I don't know that you could actually remake it in India. I don't know if we are ready to face such troubling truths. And I think it is true. I think all moms at some point or the other deal with that, deal with the anxiety, deal with the guilt, deal with the frustration. And we never want to say that. We always want to sort of present the very wholesome picture of motherhood. But I wonder if a filmmaker here would have the courage to remake that.
I'm definitely going to add this movie to my watch list. Yeah, Sukirti.
Tonight.
Right. And now, Sukirti, your questions.
Anupama, a lot of these movies, especially Indian movies, we grow up with them. They shape us. They have shaped our culture. They shape our thinking, especially this whole concept of love. And this is a theme that also comes up in your book, and we have fantasized. And now we have to bring up Shah Rukh and Salman, because we've fantasized these heroes in our heads.
Yeah.
So they shape us so deeply. So is this something that you're seeing shifting in Bollywood, or you see that theme continuing, especially the big love angle?
I'll tell you, it's really strange, but one of my observations in the last few years has been that we're not really making any of those really swooning romances. The kind of things that Yashji did, Yash Chopra. My vocabulary of romance really came from his cinema. I thought this is what grand love must be like. The carriage ride in Switzerland, and the chiffon saris, and wo Chandni mein wo helicopter se, rose petals are coming down, and of course it's completely unreal and completely fantastical, but it was so beautiful. The woman in white, and all these noble people grappling with matters of the heart, and I don't think we're really making that sort of that very I think Sanjay Bhansali goes there in movies like Bajirao Mastani, where you have that sort of completely swooning romance. The romance between the two was just so beautiful, and everything is so beautiful. His aesthetic, the way the women look, the way they are lit, the way like the one hair will fall like that. अब बहुत कम हो गए हैं. अब ज़्यादातर filmmakers are not making those kind of, I'm looking forward to Shakun Batra's Gehraiyan, which looks like a deep sort of intense relationship movie, but that kind of fantastical romance, I don't know, when was the last time you guys saw one? And 2 years ago I interviewed Deepika at the Cannes Film Festival, and she was like, I really want to do a romance. And I said, how can Deepika Padukone not have a romance? I mean, my God, like, why isn't anyone offering her? And she said nobody had offered because they're just not writing them. I don't know. Maybe there is now a keener sense that movies have to be more closer to life.
They no longer
they have to be what real life is.
Yeah.
They're not escapism, especially that romantic escapism, which frankly I loved. I mean, I want all kinds of movies. I want real type movies, but I also want the escapism. And I don't know. I hope somebody sees this and makes one.
I hope so too, because I could not help smiling.
Three women waiting for it, right?
Yes. When I was reading your book, I also felt that you were also a hopeless romantic. I don't know if I read you correctly, though.
Absolutely. I just feel like there are, you have moods, right? So there are times when you just want to lose yourself in something that's just beautiful. And really, cinema is about pleasure. It's not always about taking home something that you've learned. It's not always about sort of having a very sort of sensorial experience in the sense of like a Marvel movie, like, oh my God, like, it's like a action-packed roller coaster. Right? Sometimes it's just about losing yourself and watching two pretty people fall in love. And what's wrong with that?
Well said. I am also waiting for a great romance. Upasana, over to you. I'm sure you're waiting for one too.
So, talking about romance, Anupama, you say in the book, weddings and movies are a match made in heaven, especially in India. I so agree with that line. But while we're talking about romance and pairings, I would like to know, is there a pairing of actors that you would like to see on screen that hasn't been done?
Hmm. Wow. I think so many. I would love to see, for example, in the last 2 years in the lockdown, I've really kind of started to watch cinema that's outside of Hindi cinema,
Right.
and through that, and especially Malayalam cinema, which is just outstanding. The level of craft and storytelling is brilliant. And there's an actor named Fahad Fasil,
Yes.
who is just spectacular, and I would love to see him in if not a Hindi movie, but I would love to see him paired with, I don't know, with a Deepika. To me, that would be like so exciting. I think one of the things that is so exciting now is this kind of cross pollination between film industries. It's so Deepika and Alia are working in Telugu cinema. Fahad Fasil has also done a Telugu film. I think the more that there is of this, that it's going back and forth, that we're not slotted into Bollywood, Collywood, Mollywood,
Yes.
all these woods.
Right.
I think that would be great. So I would love to see that. I would also love to see. I wish if Irfan had lived,
Oh,
I
yeah.
would have loved to see him play. Play with some really interesting female actors. Like I think Alia Bhatt is such a fantastic actor. I think Sania Malhotra is such a interesting new vivacious presence on screen. These kind of unexpected sort of pairings would be so exciting for me.
Okay.
And Shah Rukh with anyone.
Of course, that goes without saying. Similarly, Anupama, how about a director and actor pairing that you really think would work?
Wow.
Huh?
That's a really
I
interesting
know
one.
these are really broad choices.
No, it's a tough one. But let's say if again, if let's say somebody like a Shah Rukh would work with someone who comes from a slightly left of field school, and I don't mean like arty completely, but let's say Ritesh Batra, who made Lunchbox,
Right.
was
Right.
to direct Shah Rukh. What would be the outcome? I mean, I'm just excited at the idea of it. Like, who knows? Who knows? Or Vishal Bharadwaj, with any actor who's like very, very mainstream, I think would have, like, look at what Vishal did with Ajay Devgan and Saif Ali Khan in Omkara.
Yes.
Yes.
Fabulous.
Amazing. It was amazing. I mean, I think it's Saif's, shining moment in cinema was him playing that role. So I think those kind of pairings are so exciting कि वो सुन के ही मजा आ जाता है.
Right. How about, of course, music is such an integral part of our movies, Anupama. I mean, I actually went and listened to so many songs after reading the book, So what about a music director and an actor? Where would you, just one wish list, like? We should publish this somewhere, Anupama Chopra's wish list.
I know that guys, if anyone's out there listening, this is what you have.
This is what we want.
No, this is going to be in the introduction of book part 2, of Place in My Heart part 2. Okay.
Correct. Music directors, I think honestly, A.R. Rahman is incomparable.
Absolutely.
And you just listen to the music of like his latest Atrangire.
Yes.
It's just so, it adds so much to that film, and it's just so beautiful. I think him but of course he's worked with most actors. He's been composing for so many decades now. But I think for me, him composing for actors really adds another layer. And in fact, it's very interesting. I don't know if you guys saw Atrangire, but the film ends and the end credits are a film by, and A.R. Rahman is the first name. So
Wow.
even before Anand L. Rai, the director, puts his own name there, he says a film by and A.R. Rahman, because that's the level of contribution of his music. He's like another scriptwriter. So I think him with any actor. I also love Pritam's music. Love. I loved Ludo. I loved his compositions for Karan's last film. He's just fantastic. So more than an actor, I think if Pritam does more work with like Karan, with Imtiaz, we'll get great soundtracks. And for me, honestly, I know it's very fashionable now to not have lip sync songs, to have fewer songs, because again, like I said, the textures are becoming more realistic. But to me, songs are one of the biggest strengths of our cinema.
I saw
And
it.
I hope that filmmakers, I said this to Karan, I said, please don't ever stop. Like, don't think you need to be, you need to be like realistic, quote unquote, in the literal sense of the word. We need, so, those songs, guys, are like,
Embedded.
they're embedded. And they look at how deeply, like they play at our birthday parties, they play at our weddings. मतलब हम सब उन्हीं गानों के साथ नाच रहे हैं. They play at our parties, they play in our discotheques. We can't live without music, yeah. You have to make music. So I'm a big champion of songs in films.
So glad, Anupama, really. Sukriti.
So now that you brought up Karan Johar, I have to bring up, because I love this term affluenza. Because when we think of Karan, that's what we think of, larger than life, everything bigger. But
Yeah.
also what we're seeing, even on these OTTs, though, the budgets have become something that is just astronomical.
Yeah.
So, but we see them being spent in a very different kind of way. How do you see that shaping up? Because you have very low budget films, and then you have still the 200 crore films.
Yeah. No, but I think genuinely what the OTT platforms have done is allowed for a range of topics and cinemas. So even within the scope of just Hindi cinema, what you have is very kind of edgy, dark, films addressing things that perhaps we wouldn't see normally in a theatrical release, because they can get around the censors at least to some extent.
Yes.
And you also have the very, very traditional old school Hindi movie. And genuinely, I think that's the way it will continue. People will find the right home for their subject. So, for example, Gehraiyan was not a theatrical film that went to streaming. It was made and then given straight to streaming, because Karan, obviously, who's the producer, felt that this film, which is an intimate relationship drama, is probably better suited to all of us watching it in our homes. And I think that is what will happen. There'll be a variety of subjects, which is so exciting for all of us viewers, because that's what we want. We want more variety. So we'll have a variety of subjects, we'll have a variety of budgets which will suit those subjects, and you will have choice in terms of where do you want to see it. Are you going to schlep to the theater? Are you going to pay that 200 rupees, or are you going to sit at home and enjoy it in your own living room? So I think there's going to be all kinds, which we are already seeing now.
No, it's very interesting, because I think definitely during the lockdown, we've also gotten used to, and also now I think we used to think that 2 hours was long or 3 hours was long. Now we're used to this OTT with 10 hours of episodes. And so it's also
Absolutely.
changed the way that we're consuming now.
Absolutely. And our habits have changed. All of us, I mean, I'm not, for example, a binger. I don't enjoy staying up all night and watching a series. I like to pace it out, like watch an episode a day or every other day or two a day at the most, because there's a swad in
Anticipation.
in doing thoda. So I think it's really shaped us into consuming content in very different ways.
Now, two things, though, we have seen. One is, of course, the way that women are shifting, and especially the role of women. The second is the language. I know that OTT platforms have given a lot more liberty, but there's also been a lot more, what would I say, freedom in terms of the type of content. And some people also claim that maybe some of the scenes are not required, but because it is in vogue to see how many words can you put in, how many scenes can you put in, that that it's no longer PG cinema.
No, it isn't. But truthfully, it is. There are all kinds. So the thing with any of those streaming platforms is they want to give you choice. right? So they always want to make it so that there's something for your children, and there's something for you, and there's something for perhaps your parents. So I think that because it is so, it's purely out of choice, right? You're subscribing to a platform, you are clicking on that platform, you are clicking on that title. I think the responsibility is the viewers. As I mean, I know there's been so much conversation about whether there need to be some guardrails, whether they need to bring in some, but I feel like finally, these are not cheap services, right? You are paying X hundred rupees for the year. I'm assuming that most people who subscribe would come from middle class, upper middle class families, would have a level of education. You're an adult, you make the choice, right? And as parents, you kind of ensure that the children don't have access. I know that's easier said than done. But the truth is that if your kids or people in the family were going to go out and look for inappropriate stuff, they just have to Google it. है ना? तो हम कौन सा बैठ के बोल रहे हैं कि नहीं जी, tell Netflix to do this or tell Amazon to do this, because it's all available at the click of your finger. So I think that genuinely censorship is a very slippery slope, and at least on streaming, we should not have the sort of guardrails we have in theater, where if a person pulls out a smoke, वहां पर sign आ जाता है कि smoking is injurious to health. It's so jarring. It's so. I mean, I always feel bad for directors. I'm like, look at this frame you constructed, and at the bottom of it, somebody has put this. So I think streaming should, as much as possible, stay away from censorship.
And I love the chapter that you wrote on Priyanka. So let's talk about women and the power, the woman power coming up.
It is so exciting, Sukriti. I can't tell you. I started my career more than 25 years ago, and there were always very strong leading ladies. There was Sri Devi and Madhuri and very successful women who call the shots, who were, I mean, the greatest compliment paid to them was they were the female Amitabh Bachchans, because they could carry a film, they could, they did whatever they wanted to in terms of their subjects, etc. But I think what's happened now is it's not just individuals, it's a sea change within the business. So you have, of course, very strong leading ladies, but you also have very vocal leading ladies. You have women who are not afraid to call a spade, who will say in an interview, we want pay parity, we want this, we want that. That has really changed. Pehle koi nahi bolta tha. You couldn't. It was so much sort of a business run by men, which it still is. That for most women, it was very hard to say things like this. But now in the last 5-7 years, there's been a sea change. There's a younger generation of actresses. They are talking, they are producing themselves, so they're controlling their own narrative. They are really trying to take control of the situation and create more meaty parts for themselves. Everybody now wants to do content. And that's very, very heartening. And Priyanka, I think, is just so spectacular, because she, for me, said to herself that I'm not playing by the rules of Hindi cinema. If you're telling me that post 30, now there's some imaginary clock or shelf life for a Hindi film heroine, I'm just moving the goalpost. I'm going to Hollywood.
Yeah, no, and she's done it beautifully. I mean, she's literally become, in every living room, everybody's talking about her.
Absolutely. And that was not easy. I mean, it's very hard to be an A-list star and then suddenly to go to a new place and have to tell people in the room what your name is. I mean, imagine what that took. Imagine the mind frame that you need to have. Imagine the sort of how flattening it has to be for your ego, and how evolved you have to be to accept that.
Yes.
And I think she's spectacular.
Oh, definitely. Over to you, Upasna. I love Priyanka, so she's one of my favorites.
Same here. Thanks, Sukirti. So Anupama, in the book, you share your first experience of a movie theater So please tell me, what was the first movie you watched, Bade Parde Par?
I honestly, this is my first movie memory. I don't know in truth if it's the first film I watched or not. Uh, but I remember two. I remember Sholay, and I remember not visuals from it, but I remember hearing Gabbar's soundtrack. वो जो एक आवाज आती थी ना पीछे से when he would walk in, when you first saw the shoes on the rocks, when he does the kitne aadmi the scene. I remember being very afraid of that, and I remember Star Wars. That's the other film I remember seeing, and I remember that scroll, the opening scroll, very clearly. Yeah, and I remember being like completely like just stunned ki ye kya ho raha hai? What is this? So those are my two earliest movie memories.
How lovely. How about your first VCR movie? Because the VCR was such an integral part of our growing up.
It was.
No?
Achha, mujhe yaad nahi what's the first film I saw, but I remember this very, very funny. So incident, there was us waqt na in Bombay, like it's buildings, right? So there would be one VCR library, and then it usually was some young boy who would come with a bag with the video cassettes, right? And so it was a door-to-door service. You could just say ki bhaiya nahi picture dekh, bhej do.
Correct.
And then the door-to-door service would happen. So I remember this so clearly. This boy came to our door and he brought out the new film that year was Teri Meherbaniyan, okay, which had, I don't remember the actress, but there was Jackie Shroff in it, and a dog had a starring role. Okay, the dog was a pivotal part of the story. And I remember asking that boy, "Ki picture kaisi hai?" And he says, "Kutte ka kaam bahut acha hai."
That is hilarious. How about on TV, Anupama? There was a time when they used to air one movie, I think, a week on TV.
On Sundays.
Yeah,
Yes.
on Sundays.
Yes, I have such clear memories. Thursday ko Chitrahar hota tha, and Sundays ko picture hoti thi, and between that there was nothing you could watch. And I tell my kids now that you can't even imagine that when you have so many choices on your phone.
Right.
How do you envision a world where we had two things in a week that we could watch? And film bhi, kabhi kabhi achhi hoti thi, kabhi kabhi aisi hoti thi. So it wasn't a guarantee. Chitrahar was more exciting because the song got over and the next one started. I remember that so clearly. And wo jo Sunday movie ke pehle ek tune aati thi na, ta 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 ta. I have very vivid memories of all of this.
I remember it used to be like a tragedy for us when there was a power cut during Chitrahar Day. It was like
Absolutely. And then you remember वो तबस्सुम जी का एक शो था, फूल खिले हैं, उस पे artists, and she was the original sort of interviewer, she would do those interviews with artists, and it was so exciting, but that's all there was nothing else.
How about the first movie you saw with your children? Do you recall which one that was?
One of the earliest I remember is The Little Mermaid. And for some reason, my son, who's the elder, I have a son and a daughter. So my son loved that film, and we would watch it literally every day. So for I think a couple of months, how kids get fixated na to Ariel story and The Little Mermaid. So after a while, I just got so tired of it that he would sort of lean on me here, and the TV would be there, and I would be reading a book, and every day we would watch The Little Mermaid.
That's lovely. That's so cute, really. So, Anupama, locations play a very vital part in all our movies. Is there any location from a movie that you visited that left a mark on you?
Of course, given my love for all things Yash Chopra, Switzerland, I remember I for my honeymoon I went to Switzerland, and we bought a cowbell.
Yes, of course.
this was all thanks to Adi and Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge. And there's a very funny story about so Dilwale released before Vinod and I got married, and we were both at the premiere, but separately. I was with my mom, and it was very funny because he was sitting a couple of sort of seats behind. And when Tujhe Dekha To Ye Jana Sam came, he was like singing loudly. Okay, and he was sitting next to Subhash Ghai. And Subhash ji is looking at him like, isko kya ho gaya? Ye kyun paglon ki tarah pe?
How
So
sweet.
for us, Tujhe Dekha To Ye Jana Sanam was a very special thing. So we bought a cowbell in Switzerland. So I guess it's really what. And then we've gone back. My husband's from Kashmir, and for a long time we couldn't go back to Srinagar because it was too difficult. So we would go every year to Switzerland because he needed to see mountains, and it just kept sort of sinking into me deeper and deeper how deeply influential cinema is.
Indeed.
They have a Chopra Lake in Switzerland. They have a Bollywood tour where they take Indian tourists to all the places where Hindi films are shot. I mean, it's remarkable. And of course, Switzerland I've visited many times, but the place I want to go after seeing it in Imtiaz's film is Corsica.
Yes.
Which was in Tamasha.
Tamasha, correct.
Yeah, that it just looked so beautiful, and Ranbir and Deepika was just so gorgeous that I was like, okay, that's a place to visit.
Every frame is memorable of that.
Yes. And ladies, let's not forget Spain, because Zoya has convinced us Spain is the place to go to.
Absolutely. More and more lists for us. So as I was reading the book, Anupama, it reminded me of I grew up in the South. So one of my all-time favorites is Nayakan. And I was wondering, I wonder if that's in the book. So when I saw the chapter on Nayakan, I was like, oh, I'm so happy, Again, a tough question. Which is your favorite frame or scene from this masterpiece?
Oh my God, it is genuinely such a masterpiece.
Such a masterpiece.
Yeah. And it's such a layered film that every time you see it, you will see something else. But I think for me, the frame is the scene that I actually begin my chapter on Icon with is when he sees his dead son. And that cry comes out of somewhere so primal, I think for any parent, the death of a child is the worst. It's not even something you want to remotely consider, and that guttural cry that comes out of him is, baal khade ho jate hain, rongte khade ho jate. It's so, for me, that was an unforgettable frame. And what Kamal Hassan did in that scene is just so spectacular. What a stellar actor he is. And Mani Ratnam, of course, I mean, he's just a legend. But that scene for me always it just embedded itself into my brain as just the anguish of a parent.
These adjectives you use, like when I read them, I'm like, of course, it's so like apt for that scene.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So Kirti, over to you.
So yeah, Anupama, just thinking like, of course, it's going to be time for the Oscars and it's going to be time for all these Emmys and all these awards, but we still don't have something of that scale. I know you're involved with Mami. So why is it? I mean, because, we all are just watching for the Oscars and everybody walking down the red carpet. But in India, there's still like award shows. They're not really taken to that stature.
Yeah, I think it's because... See, the Oscars are an industry award. It is your peers celebrating your work, and there is a certain credibility and a certain heft attached to that process. Of course, the Oscars are, it is finally about 7,000 odd people voting. It isn't some absolute system ki only the best films ever win. No, if you look at Oscar history, there are many incredible films, many incredible artists who never won or won at the end of their careers where they were given an honorary Oscar. So it's not a perfect system by any measure, but they've been able to build so much credibility, so much interest. I think because it's not a system that can be rigged. It's not, it is votes. The votes are audited. Yes, you can lobby. You can, like a politician, you can lobby for people to see your films, for people to, and if you have more of a marketing budget, chances are you can make more noise and get your film to be seen. All of that, of course, is there. But it's not, I think it's a genuine celebration of great work. The problem with our award shows is that the great work somewhere is just lost.
It's more about popularity.
It's popularity. It's an entertainment show designed for television. The Oscars and Golden Globes are also designed for television. They make much of their money from the televised rights, right? But our shows are, I think, are designed as shows, and the excellence in work is an afterthought. तो पहले जब on ground होता था, there were so many, first of all, the umpteen award shows. And I know, I've been in the business long enough to know how often an award was given to an actor because he or she showed up. So it's a system that serves everyone because there's a lot of money to be made. The brands, serve their consumers. The brands serve the film industry and the event organizers. The event organizers pay stars who make crores for one appearance. So it's not in anyone's interest to shake the cart.
But it makes it very difficult to actually discover,
Absolutely.
new works and interesting new works. I mean, of course, the OTTs are helping greatly in that.
Greatly, yeah. No, I think we really desperately need a very credible award system, and we've tried in our small way to do that with the Critics' Choice Awards. So I'm the chairperson of the Film Critics Guild, which is the only registered body of film critics in the country, and we do something called the Critics' Choice Award, which is a pan-India award. So we're in fact in the voting process now, and it's about 35-40 critics who vote and watch all these movies. So I think there has to be a certain...
How do you find the time to watch all these movies?
But I love it. You know how they say, now you make time for what you love.
Yes.
So I think you're absolutely right. I hope and pray that we get a more solid awards in place soon, because it's very important as a film industry to really applaud great work.
No, I totally agree, because I think a lot of us are also struggling because we want to discover more and we want to discover more meaningful work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back to you, Upasana.
Thank you, Sukirti. Anupama, Bollywood films is something I think almost every Indian loves. Do you think we're ready for our version of Universal Studios?
Totally. Absolutely. In fact, I've never been to Imagica, which is outside of Mumbai, but I know that they've done some work with sort of Bollywood rides and Bollywood themed kind of experiences, but completely. I think there should be a museum for Hindi cinema or Indian cinema where, I would love to see the costumes. I would love to see scripts with handwritten notes from great directors. I went to an exhibition at the Los Angeles Museum where they had done an exhibition where you could actually see scripts and costumes and photographs. Just there's so much archival material, but I don't think as a culture we are very, very big on archiving. We have not preserved enough. I mean, I just look at even my own husband's production house and I'm like, but where are the costumes? And it's nobody's priority. But koi sochta nahi hai itna. And I think it's very important. I think for sure, I hope somebody watches this, writes a hefty check and creates Universal Studios.
Seriously, something that pays homage to our movies, something.
Yeah, and a place for fans, right? A place where you go. I mean, look at the amount of people who gather even at Madame Tussauds in London, because it's our stars.
Absolutely.
We should have it.
We should. It broke my heart to read about the archives of, so many movies getting lost.
Yeah.
Is there anything updated that's happening now to preserve our movies? Because digitally it's much...
I think what's happened is in the last 5 or 7 years, filmmakers themselves have become more aware, and they realize the importance of the problem is when film was shot on film, that's extremely it kind of though I have read that actually the traditional film it preserves better than digital, but now more and more people are preserving, and there's work being done at the National Archives in Pune, but there's also a private archive started by Shivendra Singh Dungarpur, which is doing, it's called Film Heritage Foundation, and they're doing excellent work, because this is what it's going to take. It's going to take passionate individuals to go out and preserve, because everybody else is so busy with their day jobs कि किसी के ध्यान में ही नहीं है.
Absolutely. That would be wonderful, really.
Yeah.
Awesome. Suki,
Yes.
back to you.
So a tough question. I know with the lockdowns, the constant opening of the movie theaters, the closing, there is a big concern also that have our habits shifted forever? And are we actually going to go back to the big screens, or will we go back in a very limited way? As you also say, it's your office and your place of worship. I mean, I sometimes also just miss, because we used to wait, for that release to come and get that ticket. Is that going to be something that we're going to do now much less frequently?
I hope not, but I think we will. I think for a majority of the people, that kind of urge to be in a theater every week has ebbed a little. And I think now what people will go back into theaters for is the big event movies. They will go back to see a Suryavanshi. They will go back to see a Spider-Man. They will only go back to see films where they feel कि this is worth the effort, क्योंकि effort बहुत ज़्यादा है. The ease of that click on your computer is just too much. So I think that's already happening in a sense. I mean, if you look at Chandigarh Kare Ashiki, which is a more medium budget film, even though Ayushmann Khurrana is a massive star, the numbers weren't as great as people had thought it would be. So I think there is a definite change, but I hope, my hope I'm an eternal optimist. I hope that streaming and theater will coexist, and we as viewers will just have more choices.
Very nice, very nice. But what's next for you now? We know we're waiting for version 2 of the book, so we're waiting for the next 50. But what else?
I think I'm really going to focus this year on Film Companion, and I feel that's the digital entertainment platform that I run, and I really want this year to sort of find the next pivot for Film Companion. It's very hard. I'm at heart a film critic. मतलब entrepreneur तो मैं जबरदस्ती से बन गई. So कुछ इतना समझ भी नहीं आता. So I'm just a struggler. But I hope that I can struggle my way towards something exciting and a way to kind of pivot Film Companion to the next level.
Well, we wish you best of luck, because like I said, I wait for your reviews, because when I'm kind of dicey, do I want to watch it? I'm like, no, I'll see what she has to say first.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Back to you, Upasana.
Thanks, Sukirti. So, Anupama, over the years, you've interviewed so many stars at various junctures of their lives, seen them up close, and so many people from the film industry. So I'm just going to, like a quick quiz, share one adjective, and I just want you to say the name that pops into your head for that adjective.
Sure. Okay.
So starting off, glamour.
Priyanka.
Charisma.
Shahrukh.
Kick-ass.
Tiger Shroff. When I first interviewed him, did this twirl and did a kick over my head.
Wow. Oh my
After
God.
that, he is kick-ass for me for eternity.
I'm going to share this story with my son. He loves Tiger Shroff. Dancing diva.
Wow. Sai Pallavi, who is just the most incredible dancer. She's just fabulous.
Wow. Okay. Twinkle toes.
Twinkle toes would be Hrithik Roshan.
Of course. Okay. How about cool?
Cool, I think, is Zoya Akhtar. I think her cinema is so cool. Her attitude to life is so cool. I think she's very cool.
Hot?
Hot. Who's hot? Okay, this is embarrassing. I didn't think film critics should be saying so. Okay, Hrithik Roshan in War, walking out of that helicopter is the hottest thing I've seen in a very long time.
How sweet. That's lovely. Entertainer?
I think Ranveer. Ranveer is a consummate entertainer.
Humble?
Humble is Diljit Dosanjh.
Okay.
I have never met anyone who has accelerated at the pace that he has. You know, in literally 4 years, he's gone from a Punjabi film hero to a global star, and he's still the same guy.
Lovely.
You know, he's still struggling to speak English and absolutely okay to say, not self-conscious, fighting with Siri on camera. It's just fab.
Iridescent?
That's a lovely one. I think Sharmila Tagore.
Beautiful.
Yeah, she's
Fearless?
Fearless. I would say again Priyanka, because I think to take that leap that she did, you have to be fearless. You have to be willing to say, I will fall flat on my face, and everyone back home will see me fall flat on my face. उसके लिए बहुत कलेजा चाहिए.
Absolutely. Energetic?
Energetic is Shah Rukh and Ranveer. I have never seen anyone with that much energy. I mean, I remember doing interviews with Shah Rukh at like 1 a.m, and I'm like, yaar, neend nahi aa rahi. But not at all. He's fully there, fully on. And I'm like struggling to keep my eyes open. He's fab.
That was so delightful, Anupama. Thank you so much, really. We can't thank you enough for joining us. And for all of you watching, this very awesome book, published by Penguin India, is available online. Grab your copy now. It's, like I say, it's a must watch list that like no other. And thank you, Pratik, for coordinating this for us. And stay safe, everyone, and definitely get the book. Thanks again, Anupama.
Thank you so much. Bye.